Our devotional for March 21, a reflection on my utmost for his highest, a daily devotional that you can find at utmost.org. The key text for today is Galatians 2, verse 20, and I will read verses 19 and 21 as well. For through the law I died to the law, so that I might live for God. Verse 20. I have been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. The life I now live in the body, I live by faith in the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me. I do not set aside the grace of God, for if righteousness could be gained through the law, Christ died for nothing. In our devotional, identified or simply interested. I have been crucified with Christ. Galatians 2:20. The inescapable spiritual need each of us has is the need to sign the death certificate of our sin nature. I must take my emotional opinions and intellectual beliefs and be willing to turn them into a moral verdict against the nature of sin, that is, against any claim I have to my right to myself. Paul said, I have been crucified with Christ. He did not say, I have made a determination to imitate Jesus Christ, or I will really make an effort to follow him, but I have been identified with him in his death. Once I reach this moral decision and act on it, all that Christ accomplished for me on the cross is accomplished in me. My unrestrained commitment to myself, to God gives the Holy Spirit the opportunity to grant to me the holiness of Jesus Christ. It is no longer I who live. My individuality remains, but my primary motivation for living and the nature that rules me are radically changed. I have the same human body, but the old satanic right to myself has been destroyed. I want to read that line again. I have the same human body, but the old satanic right to myself has been destroyed. In the life which I now live in the flesh, not the life which I long to live or even pray that I live, but the life I now live in my mortal flesh, the life which others can see, I live by faith in the Son of God. This faith was not Paul's own faith in Jesus Christ, but the faith the Son of God had given to him. See Ephesians 2, verse 8. It is no longer a faith in faith, but a faith that transcends all imaginable limits, a faith that comes only from the Son of God. And I've been reading these daily devotionals for myself for a little over a year, and this one in particular has had one of the more significant impacts on me in terms of how I think. And it comes primarily from the phrase of giving up our right to ourselves. And even the title of this devotional, Are we identified with Christ, or are we simply interested? Because there are a lot of times where we will go after the good and we will do good things. We say that we want to be imitators of Christ. That's good. But the whole goal is to be crucified with Christ so that we can live with him. We want to put to death, therefore, everything that is within us that is not of Christ. And that's a long journey, and that's a sanctifying journey, and that's a hard journey, but it's a necessary journey. We have to ask ourselves what we have done that was of our own fleshly desires, our own emotional desires, our impulses. How do we bring those under control? Well, it's through the Holy Spirit and by the power of Christ in us. So this line that I read twice, I have the same human body, but the old satanic right to myself has been destroyed. I think sometimes when I was growing up and in my early faith walk, the idea of giving up myself sounded boring, did not sound desirable. I liked what made me unique, and I still do. And what it's saying here is that God didn't make us into robots or carbon copies. He created us uniquely, and we have to embrace that, but embrace that in a way that allows God to work through us and flow through us and be a light in a way that he designed. And it's only going to come when we allow our fleshly body and our earthly desires to be crucified with Christ.